I've been working at Delta for the 3 past years, coming from France, as you can probably tell with my little French accent. I'm not the one who will be managing this project. Jamie will be doing that for Delta. And she wasn't able to come in person today, so she will be doing the presentation on Zoom, on Teams today. I will let you present yourself, and then I'm here with Jenny and Jacob. Both of them are working with us at Delta Institute and will be working for this project too. We are waiting for Craig Zontrath from the Lake Country Carson Rec. And he will be here also to respond to any questions. Online, we have also Ellen Hardy, who is working for Delta and is on our financial team. If you have any questions or anything you want to ask to the financial people, she's here for you to respond. Let's just wait, Jamie, for you can introduce yourself because we can see you, very small, but we can see you. And then we will wait a few minutes for Craig to arrive, and maybe we'll have a longer card and it will be easier for the rest of the people here.
Sounds great. So can you guys hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, great. So thanks so much for coming in person and online today, everybody. My name is Jamie Zuris. I'm a senior specialist at the Delta Institute, and I work on the nature-based climate solutions team, working with communities on implementing green and natural infrastructure in partnership with communities. And I'm super excited to be the project coordinator for this project. I have a background in environmental science and urban planning. And as we'll get into the presentation in just a bit, this project really incorporates so many great elements that I know are going to be awesome. So let's see. I feel like there's some movement happening.
That's why everyone to be seen.
Cool.
Do you mind if we start the meeting with a small screen like that? You're okay for all of you?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start, Jamie, and if Craig arrived, we will move to the bigger screen. Apologies
Okay.
for it.
Okay, so can you guys somewhat see the slides?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, great. So before we dive in, just wanted to mention that this meeting will be recorded and publicly posted on the Delta Institute website. And all the information I'm presenting on is available in the RFP document on our website. And I will post the link to the RFP in the chat for folks online. And then I believe there are some hard copies floating around for folks in person in case you want to reference it at all. And thanks so much to all the in-person Delta staff coordinating the logistics. And I apologize, I can't be there in person today. Even though it sounds like he's on his way still, I just wanted to thank our community partner with Lake County Parks, Craig Zanstra, who is the superintendent of the Planning and Natural Resource Division at Lake County Parks and Recreation Department. So for those of you who might not be familiar with Delta Institute, we are a 501c3 organization based in Chicago, but we work with communities all across the Midwest to address complex environmental challenges. And from big city centers to rural and farming communities, we collaborate on the community level to address environmental, economic, and climate issues. And we've been around doing this work since 1998. And so we have just over 25 years of experience doing this work. So Delta Institute has 3 programmatic pillars, including resilient agriculture, sustainability and support services, and nature-based climate solutions, which is the focus area that brings us here today for this project. We work to leverage municipal investments to capture stormwater, and we really focus on communities that have been disproportionately affected by flooding and climate change through disinvestment, racist policy decisions, and other land use challenges that exacerbate climate impact. So today's pre-proposal RFP meeting will include walking through an overview of the project, the scope of work and those specific tasks, the different requirements for submitting, and we will end with a Q&A session in this format, and then the folks in person will continue on to the project site visit, which I think is a 5 to 8 minute drive if you're not familiar with the area. And you'll be actually able to see the site that we'll be working on. Okay, so Delta Institute and Lake County Parks is restoring 40 acres of oak savanna and wetland ecosystem in the Hobart Nature District. And so the project prioritizes improving stormwater management, improving habitat for local wildlife, and it also has a recreational area component where we'll be building trails and other educational aspects of the space. And continuous community engagement will be prioritized throughout the project, which will include a community stakeholder working group that is managed by Delta. And that's really to ensure that the community voices are heard and prioritized in the design and implementation of the project. And we'll also be working with several local agency partnerships throughout the project as well. And actually, the community working group is kicking off next week. So we'll be back in the area talking with community members to get a sense of what their initial vision for the space will be. And that will be incorporated into the design elements of this project. So some of the project goals in number form, we will be capturing almost 5 million stormwater gallons of water, restoring permanent wetlands, and restoring 30 acres of the native oak savanna habitat. And that will include removing invasive species, removing some trash and impervious surface that has been left behind by previous developments. And like I mentioned before, increasing recreation in the area. So we will be putting in some trails, potentially a boardwalk, an overlook, a small parking lot for better access to the site, and wayfinding signage. And so I would imagine you all can't see this timeline in detail right now if the screen is super small. But just to give you a sense, this lot has gone through a lot of changes throughout the years. So after European settlement, the lot was originally used as cattle pasture, and then it was bought over by the St. Sava Serbian Orthodox Church in 1958, where it was going to be used for picnic grounds. And then later in the 70s, they built a banquet hall that was utilized really well. And through a series of buyouts and proposed projects for the land that fortunately did not come to fruition, we kind of fast forward to 2021 when Lake County Parks Board bought the land for the purpose of preservation and conservation. So we're super excited. I know the community is thrilled that the lot will be used for conservation efforts and not developed into unnecessary things that the community did not want. And so we're super excited to be working on the effort. And so just to give you a sense, excuse me, current conditions look a little bit like this. These photos were taken by Delta Institute staff over the past year. And so there definitely needs to be some cleanup efforts. And then as you could see, there's a lot of impervious concrete left behind from the church recreation building that was previously in place. And just to provide some additional contextual maps, as you could see, the lot delineated by the red borders in the map, you might not be able to see it, but it's just to give you a sense that there are a lot of other green spaces in the area that we hope this project will help connect to, both for habitat and for recreation connectivity. And then you can also see that the project site is part of 2 micro watersheds that drain into Turkey Creek and Lake George. So it's really well-positioned site to restore. And here's just another contextual map of the project site, the 40 acres just north of Robinson Lake here. This map was created in the proposal stages, so it kind of gives a sense of what the community general plans for the design will be. And again, all these maps are provided in the RFP. Okay, so for the RFP, there are 3 options for submittal. Firms are welcome to submit a bid just for the baseline site analysis that needs to take place, or they can submit for the design and maintenance plans of the portion, or they can bid for all 3 and do one big proposal. So the maximum for all 3 tasks is a $90,000 budget. And all 3 tasks must be completed by the end of this calendar year, so December 31st, 2025. And that is because we want to hit the ground running with our implementation plans in the new year, since we have some endangered bat species that we need to protect, and we need to remove some trees first thing in the new year. So. Okay, so getting into a bit more detail in those submittal options, we have task 1, which is the baseline site analysis, where the contractor will be providing a foundational analysis that will inform the rest of the project. And this will include reviewing all existing land surveys that have been done, additional project plans that have been done, and incorporating that into the analysis. And this portion of the work must be completed by the end of August this year. And then moving on to task 3, which includes the design, permitting, and quality assurance project plans. So we'll break that down into 3 separate components. First, starting with design. As I mentioned before, community engagement is going to be really important in this project. And so we are asking that contractors first submit construction drawings and a design that is around 30% complete by September, the end of September, so that we can get the community's input on that preliminary design, and then also that will help inform some of the permitting that will take place. And then we ask that there will be 3 rounds of feedback before we settle on 100% of the design.
Jamie, let me just pause for 1 minute because we have the cord. So we just need to switch the. And
Sounds great.
it will be easier for the people to follow on the screen. Sorry.
Absolutely.
It's okay. It's starting again.
All right. Can you guys still hear me and see better, hopefully?
Yeah, we can still hear you. We're just waiting for the screen to. We had to unplug and replug. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
So Greg is here. All right. Thank you, Jamie. Go ahead. Okay, Jamie, you can continue.
Wonderful. Thanks, Craig. Okay, so as I was saying, 30% of the design will be completed by the end of September, and that's to provide opportunity for community to engage with the design. And as I mentioned before, Delta Institute and Lake County Parks will be providing opportunities for stakeholder engagement. So that might be in the form of public meetings, working with that stakeholder working group that I mentioned, and even conducting individual meetings and interviews where necessary. And so the final deliverable, 100%, will be delivered by the end of this year, December 31st. And that will be 3 hard copies and 1 digital copy of the design and construction drawings, all the specifications needed, and all the nitty-gritty details of those designs are in the RFP. So part 2 of the second task is the permitting coordination, which is pretty straightforward. There was an easement placed over the 40-acre site in 2021. So we just ask that the contractor be aware of that. And then the permitting is estimated to take place around the time that the preliminary designs are completed, and the full permitting must be complete by the end of the year. And then the last part of the second task is creating 2 quality assurance project plans, or QAPs. And one is going to focus on the actual project implementation work, and the other is going to focus on monitoring protocols so that the long-term sustainability aspects of the project are captured. And that monitoring QAP will be incorporated into task 3, which is the maintenance and stewardship plan. And we ask that the QAPs use the guidelines that National Fish and Wildlife Foundation prefer. They have some templates online for reference. So the final aspect of this scope of work is the maintenance and stewardship plan, which will be done in coordination with Lake County Parks, since they will be the ones providing long-term stewardship. in ensuring that maintenance tasks and schedules for the native habitat maintenance are in place. And so the two main goals for this planning effort are making sure the ongoing functionality and upkeep of specific elements of the project are maintained, as well as efforts to preserve and enhance long-term ecological health and sustainability. And like the others, this task should be completed by the end of the year. So here is just a reference to Appendix D in the RFP, which is the stewardship plan that was already completed by DNR in 2020. And then this is an overall project timeline for the whole project, but the scope for this request for proposals is just focused on activity number 3 there. And like I mentioned, we have some strict environmental compliance laws to follow. And so just wanted to point out that we have a couple of bat and butterfly species that we are keeping in mind as we do the design and implementation. And now we could get into guidelines. So I won't go through this entire checklist. It's all in the document, but just wanted to point out a couple things. We ask that the proposal narrative not exceed more than 15 pages, but that's just for the project narrative. The supporting documentation can exceed 15 pages. And then we ask for information on the project team, resumes, some references to similar projects you've done, etc. Okay, so when you go to submit, we ask that you submit 1 original proposal with 2 hard copies to the Delta Institute website, Delta Institute office in Chicago. And then you'll also be submitting a digital copy to myself and Helen Hardy and label it the project name. And then after the June 13th deadline, Delta Institute will be evaluating each proposal with Lake County Parks. We will be forming a proposal selection committee. It will have at least 5 members, and we will all be individually reviewing the proposals to determine if they meet the requirements. And failure to meet the essential requirements of the RFP may be cause for rejection of the proposal. And we do encourage disadvantaged business enterprises and firms with staff with additional credentials and licenses to apply, and they will be graded higher if you have appropriate different credentials. And so to wrap us up, here are some of the key deadlines to be aware of. Beyond today's Q&A session, we will be accepting additional questions online through the end of this week. And then the actual proposal deadline is June 13th. And we expect to review the proposals shortly after and get us going by the end of June. So now we'll open it up for Q&A, but like I said, we will be accepting questions through the end of this week. And to submit those questions, you can email Helen. And once we get a list of all the questions, we will be distributing them to folks that have attended this meeting and have asked questions, and then we'll also post it on our website. And so just an encouragement to connect with us in other ways. And that's all for me. So I'll stop sharing and open it up to questions.
Thank you, Jenny. So if anyone have any questions.
Hi, Jamie, this is Steve Zimmerman. Can you hear me?
I can. Hey, Steve.
Okay. I have a couple of questions. Is the topographic survey going to be required for this?
That is a good question. And if Craig's in the room, I might defer to Craig.
I wouldn't say a survey's needed. I think what we have from Lake County, parts of that is probably pretty good enough to figure it out. There's not a lot of great change. It's actually kind of in the middle of two different watersheds. Yeah, we should be okay with what's out there.
Okay. Is a wetland delineation going to be required?
No, I wouldn't say one's going to be needed. Looking at the site, I think it's pretty clear we're going to have to work on a boardwalk to get through a portion of the trail. So I think we've got to get that easily.
Okay. How about a tree survey? I know there's a lot of trees, but is a tree survey going to be recommended, or is it more like the recommendation will be like this percentage of species need to be removed or something like that?
Yeah, I think kind of just expounding on what James Pothoff put together, because he identified some of the species and then some of the areas where they need to come out, some of those ephemeral areas and places where some cottonwood and some other less desirables going to come in. So yeah, I think we can identify those in the field with it too. So.
Can I keep asking while I'm going here? If a firm designs this, are they precluded from bidding on the construction?
No. Maylena, correct me if I'm wrong, but we'll be doing a separate RFP for the construction and implementation.
And then you said Delta and Lake County will coordinate all the stakeholder meetings?
Correct.
Okay. And are those all in person or a combination of virtual in person?
It'll be a combination, but the working group meetings will largely be in person, and there's a minimum of 5 of them that will be taking place over the course of the next 2 years. So I would say several opportunities for in-person engagement through the end of this year.
Okay. Did you say that MBEs and WBEs, if they're on the team, there will be higher points awarded? Or was that just if there's an engineer or landscape architect?
They are encouraged to apply. Whether we are able to score them higher, maybe Helen or Maylena can jump in.
They are encouraged to apply. They're not scored differently than others.
Thanks, Helen.
I think that's all I got for now. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
So we do have some question in the room. Go ahead, Tom.
For section 2.3, the PLAPs, just clarifying for the implementation PLAP of reference, is that implementation construction? Are you specifically thinking about like part 3, where the PLAP, in order to collect data on site, they've got a PLAP in place to document that process, or is this a construction implementation PLAP? It just depends on the whole timing of everything. That would kind of your first pass. They would get flat with one tech. So you would put it through that another project.
Yeah, so we're asking for 2 QAP, one for the monitoring and one for the construction. And so can you repeat your questions? Is the second QAP is a construction QAP or a data monitoring QAP?
No, that one. So well, when it says implementation, that refers to construction.
Yes.
So it's not a QAP for data acquisition.
No, it's for construction.
Fine.
Any other questions, Joanna? Okay. So you said the parking lot is staying. Do you have a specific size that you're looking for? How many parking stalls are you looking for? Is it just a general?
I thought we put in there maybe, I think it was 10 or 12 max. Thought that's where we were at.
And then do you have a budget for construction at this point?
I think we had some numbers that were given to us previous to the grant writing.
Yes, I don't think we have it right now. We can look at it. We got a grant for this project from the National Fish and Wildlife, so it will have to be within this grant, but we are also looking for additional funding for maybe the recreational part. We'll have to see what the design looks like, and then maybe if we can have some design option too, so we can have some flexibility with the construction after. And we'll see how we can go with the grants or the opportunity to find more funding for the construction.
So phasing, but potentially,
Maybe, yeah.
and then you have the connection to Robinson Lake site. Is there any maintenance or anything on that south parcel that needs to be incorporated into this design?
We'll have to work with the city of Hobart on that because, with the trail from this project ties in Robinson Lake, we want to kind of work simultaneously with Hobart and making that connection. So we have a pretty good relationship with them, so I think we can work on that and with the consultant at that time and do it simultaneously. So, yeah.
Robinson Lake Park is a public park, so it's owned by the city, and it's, they are the one in charge of the maintenance of Robinson Lake and the playground and all the site south of the Lake County Park site. And on the north, there is a Charlie Hines and Vienna
Right.
site. So there is also some connection for maintenance that can be discussed with all of the entity working around the site.
And are they part of the stakeholder group, the city, or the parks department?
So the part, which part of the stakeholder groups, Jamie? I think the city and Lake County Park, of course.
Both of
Yes.
them, yep.
Did we get a copy of the conservation easement document?
Oh,
Is
yeah.
that available?
Yep.
All right, I'm gonna be Steve in the room. Soil borings, you don't anticipate soil borings right now either, if you're not gonna do a delineation or a topo.
Yeah, no, because the new parking lot's gonna go up kind of paralleling 49th to a certain extent, so that's, definitely a higher spot in the park, and it's already got the existing access road that goes through it, so I think we'll be pretty good at that. So, and then that's the furthest anything will go for any major facility, or at least the hardscape.
Any pavilion you're holding on then or anything like that? Any opening?
Well, no, not necessarily, but open to suggestions by the overlook area. Something there might make sense, but, or, if somebody wants to get creative and post something to the parking lot as well, we would say no to that, so as part of a good design, we could, have something there to add a little interest, that'd be great, so. Yeah, because, you could go north and south from that parking lot at some point, north to the nature preserves, DNR, and also Shirley Heights, and then south to the trail, and then we've got many miles in both directions then, so.
And then you had mentioned that the stakeholder meetings, so about 5 in-person meetings is what you're planning on. It's one for the budgetary change. Okay, thank you.
5 in-person meetings over the course of the next 2 years. So maybe half of that for the rest of this year, but it's totally up to us to decide if there's more or less.
Thank you.
With the expectation on those meetings that the consultant is playing facilitating or more of just technical support?
Technical support.
You want to answer this one?
I think there might be a lag.
Related to, my name's Erin, related to the project plans, I was just wondering, is there like a nearby nature center to the site that would like have a lot of foot traffic, or is it like people coming and parking?
Yeah, it's all remote parking from different locations provided by different entities, so Shirley Heights has some parking lots, DNR does, City of Hobart, National Parks working on one as well, so, City of several.
Okay, but no like building with programming.
No.
Thank you.
Okay.
For section 2.1, design and site work drawings, how many versions of the drawings are you looking for? Are you just looking for one set and then you're gonna go interact with the public and revise that, or you have several different designs at the beginning, and they choose from those.
Yeah, so we asked for at least 3 revisions of the design.
And you might want to choose, I think it's good to provide several projects too to the first stakeholder working group, the 31%, but it's a little bit up to you too, how you want to play this. If you have one design to show only, it's fine. It's up to what you come up with. Or maybe you can have one design with different options, and then the stakeholder working group can discuss, and then you can move forward depending on the discussions of the stakeholder working group.
I was going to ask, so is it fair to say that in addition to the conversation here about the site analysis, and kind of consultant part of the proposal propose what I think is appropriate for the designs in front, as opposed to specific details and what tasks you guys
Really
need to have accomplished?
Okay, can you rephrase your question? So I'm
On
trying to
the
understand.
consultant to provide in the proposal, what we think is an adequate site analysis for the design that's proposed, as opposed to we need these tasks at minimum to be completed. I didn't see mention of that in the RFP, so it's a little bit open-ended. Am I
Yes,
interpreting that correctly?
yes, it's up. Well, Craig, let me know if we don't have any specific requirement on the design, that's for sure. We want the community input to be taken into account, and we want a full design that is acceptable for Lake County Park. So that will be the one at the end that will approve the design, so this is your site, of course. So we're working for Lake County Park. I don't know if you have any.
Well, I mean, with the assessment, you kind of see what James Potoff did, so, he gave a pretty honest assessment of what's on the site, and so it's, nothing beyond that, and you kind of see what he did, and we're just looking for generally what we see on the site and what we're gonna need to get it to the place where we can have public visit the site and utilize it. So, I mean, most of the site's gonna be, off the beaten path. It'll be more, nature preserve type, property. Really the only active part of the site would be the parking lot and the trail, maybe the overlook. So the vast majority of the site would be natural. So,
We'll stay pretty open.
Yeah.
And maybe just I want to emphasize that this site, you will have, I think, lots of community input, because it's a site that have a lot of meaning for all the Orthodox people because of the church being there before. So you have lots of family that have been having weddings and communion. So it's a lot of symbolic within this site that you will have to probably take into account when we'll be working on it.
I was wondering, is that church still active? Do they still exist?
So the church is not on the site, obviously. It's a dumping site right now, but it's they built a new church in Maryland.
yeah, they're on Mississippi Street, south of Route 30, on the east side of Mississippi. Yeah. So
Are they one of the stakeholders?
And they are part of the stakeholder working groups.
Okay.
They're already very much involved.
Okay. Would part of the community engagement be focused on preserving history from that banquet hall specifically? I don't know if that's something that you guys already know that they're looking for, is to have signage about this used to be.
We don't
Community
know.
location?
The community will let us know.
Okay.
When I don't know if you can put the map of the design that we put on the request for proposals, Jamie, but when we put this map on the request for proposals, we had some call from some of the community member saying that the place where we were focusing on maybe having a gazebo or whatever place to overlook the wetland was facing the Orthodox Church west, and that was important for them. So you will have this kind of feedback probably to take into account, and then I will let you know. The point D, which is the red point, this one is where we were thinking about having an overlook, because when we will be on the site visit, you will see that on this point you have
It's a spoil pile,
it's a small part.
maybe from the parking lot or maybe they put it there.
Do you anticipate needing to do any work with the state historic office, with the SHPO office? With like his, like for cultural preservation?
Yeah, we acquired the property and we did a SHPO survey because we utilized federal funds and then local conservation funds to buy it. So, yeah, there was a SHPO survey done by the state and, nothing, at least in that area, that they were concerned about. But, you know, there's some typical stuff where we, you know, during construction, come across anything, you know, try our best to document it and do our best to maybe notify them at that point. But nothing that concerned them, at least for what we're trying to get done, I guess.
We have also done some environmental compliance document with the National Fish and Wildlife in order to get the grants. And so Jamie have submitted all the document approved and part of the historical documentation was already submitted. So we don't see anything. So that's that.
Thank you.
Is it accurate that this proposal is solely focused on our project management approach and qualifications as opposed to presenting an alternative or a restoration plan at this time? So we're not, as part of this submittal, providing our vision of the site at this time based on today's site visit. That obviously once it's awarded, is that correct?
We're asking you to provide the design. Yeah, go ahead, Jamie.
I think that's correct. So we've already done some preliminary engagement with the community to get a sense of what their vision for the site is. And so now we're building off of that and working with the community to guide the design. And the project goals, those numerical numbers that I shared in the presentation, are going to remain the same. So we're still going to be focusing on stormwater management, habitat preservation, and recreational aspects. And the slides will be posted on the RFP webpage in case you want to reference those, but they're also in the RFP document.
The last question I think I had is I noticed that 40 points is allocated towards budget. Can you speak to what portion of that points are awarded for just being at the 90,000 that's stated versus the benefit of coming in at a number that's lower than that? Seemed like a large portion of the overall scoring went to budget. I was curious how that breakdown will be scored.
I think it'll depend on what specific elements are included in the proposal.
We don't have a specific breakdown of this 40%. I think it's obviously the lower the proposal is, the better it will be scored, and that's how I will take the percentage, but we will take into account all the rest. So it's really up to you to come up with the appropriate number. It's the task that you're providing. I might add, because I know that some people will not do the site visit. On the site, you will see there is a big sewer. Is it a sewer, right?
It was the storm sewer, it was the drain for the parking lot.
So you have a big hole that will have to be excavated and look at more closely. So I just wanted to mention it because some of the people are online and won't be on the site visit, and I want them to be aware of it.
Thanks, Melina. And we have an online question for Erin. Go ahead.
Hi, this is Erin Pandy with ERA. I have a couple of questions. Do you know if any of the wetlands are Army Corps jurisdictional?
Yeah, they would all be isolated. Yeah, there's nothing jurisdictional.
Okay, but you don't have a JD? Okay. And has IDEM looked at these, and are they exempt, or how is the state viewing these?
No, I mean, IDEM's never looked at those per se, I don't think, but, you know, there's some Phragmites that's moved in on that south end of the parking lot and where the old building site was at, so, it's degraded enough where, you know, through the normal permitting processes for the work to be done, whatever design, I don't think we'll have a problem, because I think we're gonna be creating wetlands more in the long term,
Yeah.
better quality, so they'll see.
Right, I'm just thinking for like access, you know, on the site, you know, just avoiding those areas in order to get in to remove those invasive species and things like that from like a haul road standpoint.
Oh, yeah, there's great access in from, both the, north and potentially south as well.
Okay. And I'm assuming you want all of your paths and boardwalks and things like that to be ADA compliant
Correct.
but no survey is required.
Survey specifically for the recreational aspects.
Yeah, I mean, Steve had asked if a topographical survey was required for the site, and I can't envision designing ADA compliant access without having a topographic survey of those areas.
I would go ahead and add it then. Yes.
Sorry, can you clarify that response, Craig?
Yeah, I would say then if, to do the correct ADA compliant, you know, walkway and then also the parking lot, to have a survey done, to do it right, then we'll have to have that done. The survey. Topographic. survey.
Thank you. We will definitely add that to the Q&A document that we publish.
At that point, then, would that be part of the $90,000 or is that going to be separate?
It would be part of it.
Part of the 90?
The estimate to capture 1.6 million gallons of stormwater, where does that come from? Or is there any design that put into?
Where did we how did we come up with this number on the proposal stage? I think we use, Jenny, did we use Staple? We use Staple with some assumptions based on the design that you saw. And knowing that it was about the conjunction of two watersheds, we might be able to find the assumptions on our spreadsheet and we can share that with all of you. Because I mean, it's at the proposal stage when we put some metrics, it's always the initial metrics. Depending on the design and the constructions after, it can be changed a little bit. Just have to justify why and how it changed to the funder. Any other questions online or in person? Any question?
The dumping that has occurred illegally, do we know what the material is that was dumped, or is it just like household waste? Yeah.
Yeah, it's been, you know, couches and carpets, and furniture, tree branches and other prunings from yards and so forth. That's mostly, so a few tigers here and there as well.
But no hazardous materials testing anticipated, like for pricing.
Don't plan it out, but yeah.
Lake County Park put a gate, so it stopped a little bit the dumping, then they run on the top of the gate. Well, so now I think they stopped, but hopefully there won't be more dumping done in the next few months. We never know. Any other questions on the chat or online? Jamie, I think that there is a little red dot on the chat. It's not. Any questions?
Nope, that was just the link I posted to the RFP.
Okay. All right, so we will post all the answer to all the questions that will be asked online. We'll also post the slide deck and the recording of the meeting from today online on the website. So feel free to check online and to ask additional questions if you have, and send them to Ellen and Jamie, or maybe just Ellen. And then we will respond in writing, and we will post online also the answer to the questions. So everyone will be aware of everything at the same time. Thank you very much, Jamie, and for all the person online.
Yeah, thank you guys. Just a final reminder for folks going on site to sign the access waiver if you haven't already, since we will be collecting those as well.
Thanks, Jamie.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie.
So maybe